Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Brandon, and today I'm speaking with Dick Claveloux. He is the graphic design and production manager at GMS Racing. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Trying to get by with all of the extra time I've got on my hands now.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, well, I was really excited about this interview because I had actually met Mr. Calavalo a couple of years ago. Me and my dad used to visit all of the race shops, and so I just wandered into BK Racing during their last year, and I just happened to come across you, and I think we sat there and chatted for like 20 minutes, and I just remember leaving that experience and just thinking it was really cool taking the time out to talk, because I always tell people that I love going to Hendrick Motorsports, but you visit there and you're one of the thousands that are visiting, whereas you visit a smaller race team or a team in the lower divisions, and you have that opportunity to run into, whether it's someone like you that's a graphic design manager there, or I've had at other places the driver of the team or the crew chief or even the owner come out and talk and even give a tour of the place. So just as a fan, I want to just really thank you for taking that time to speak.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I specifically remember you and your dad stopping in. That year, we didn't have a whole lot of people that stopped in, so uh, it probably meant as much to me as it did to y'all, uh, just to have some company.
Yeah, I stopped by there last time I was in the area just to kind of see if any new race teams had moved in there, and I think now they just make parts for like it was Mitsubishi's like drifting program or something.
Hmm.
So the guy was just like, "Yeah, we don't do NASCAR, we do real racing," and I was like, "Okay, let's hold up for a second." But I guess I'll go ahead and move into my questions. So first off, you've worn a lot of different hats during your career. Growing up, did you have a specific job in mind, or did you just want to be a part of NASCAR?
I grew up a fan. I was a huge Mark Martin fan from early on, even though my family background is all Team Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Grandfather, father, all Team Chevy. I don't know how I ended up being a fan of a Ford driver, but uh, I didn't think I was going to get into NASCAR. Um, uh, Early on, I was looking at um, architecture. I took a lot of drafting classes and design classes in high school, and yeah, initially that was the route I was going to go. It wasn't until um, a year after high school, college wasn't really my thing. I was struggling with it really bad, and I decided to move down to North Carolina, and I really didn't know what I was going to do when I got down here. Um, uh, I met my wife shortly after I moved down here, and she steered me in the direction of the pit crew stuff because I'd done a lot of sports when I was younger and
Mm-hmm.
thought maybe the athletic side would transition into it. And I guess I got in at the right time, and that's really how my career started.
So did you, since you moved into the graphic design, did you grow up drawing, or is that after the pit crew stuff you started getting into more of the graphic design?
Yeah, I did some drawing when I was younger. I was equally into the arts as I was
Mm-hmm.
athletics. Um, I played a lot of sports, but I also did theater. I played in every form of band you can think of. I took some art classes, and of course the drafting and design stuff, AutoCAD and all that. So I wasn't probably as into it as you see a lot of these young aspiring designers are,
Mm-hmm.
but it was definitely something I liked. I actually have a picture somewhere. I need to post it up sometime. I drew a Mark Martin car when I was really young, and it's on. I have it somewhere in my storage. But that was my first racing drawing.
I loved drawing cars when I was younger, but I never had any skills. So when it comes to arts, all of my skills are more in writing or acting. So I would attempt to draw, but my cars would look horrendous. So it got to the point to where I would just grab like my folders and I would just write down the the sponsors of my favorite drivers. So instead of having like a car, someone would just look and see like Menards and then a bunch of like different ant poisons and all in there.
Yeah, yeah. Cars are tough. I've recently started getting into drawing on digital platforms like
Mm-hmm.
on an iPad. That's really new to me. I'm kind of an older guy in this realm. I'm 34.
Mm-hmm.
You see now a lot of these younger guys that are doing it. They grew up on iPads and stuff, and it's really not what I did. I did everything pen and paper. So I've been learning and trying to get to know as much as I can from some of the younger people that have been a real big help with that.
Mm-hmm. What's the process like for creating a scheme? Is it like sponsor, team, and then driver, or does the driver have input? What does that look like?
You know, I'd say 9 times out of 10, the driver has nothing to do with this scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Honestly, I've had probably more that the drivers did not like than they did. But it's not my job to make them like it. It's the
Mm-hmm.
person paying the bills, and that's either my boss or the sponsor. Um, Most of the time, it's um, a sponsor that we're either chasing or has approached us, and I'll deal directly with our marketing team.
Okay.
And I'll usually have a short conference call with whoever's in charge of their marketing, trying to hear what they're going after, what they're trying to get out of it, and then I do my own research. I
Mm-hmm.
research a lot of the people. If it's a bigger company and there's board members and stuff like that, I'll look up these people and see what type of people they seem to be or what they might be into, and I try to attack it that way because they're the ones calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a bunch of posts on their thing and some old school drivers and stuff like that, well, clearly I'm not going to go with anything too crazy or new school because they're not going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps shorten the design time a lot when you can hit it right out of the gate. So I try to spend as much time researching the company and the people calling the shots before I even draw my first line.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that could be, anywhere from 2 hours to an entire day I'll spend researching before I touch it. Um, then sometimes some come in really late and they don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you a couple ideas. You're under a time crunch and you just go for it. And the first thing you spit out is what's going to happen. I've had several of those, especially in my days at BK.
Mm-hmm.
It was, all right, what can you come up with in an hour? We don't care what it is. But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, how can I draw this quick? How
Mm-hmm.
can I set it up to print quick? And at that point in my career, I was printing it and I was putting it on the car. So I had to think about, okay, installation, the whole production process. How do I get this done in a timely manner? And there were several times where I could just about do a whole car, design, set up all that stuff within anywhere from 12 to 20 hours, start to finish.
So after you started doing the design yourselves, what was your first paint scheme to hit the track?
My first full paint scheme was David Reagan's. Uh, what was that? It was a media company. Had a weird logo. Man, I'm mad. I can't think of it.
I
It
was
was
gonna
David
try to
Reagan.
Google.
I know it was. I know it was Michigan.
Uh huh.
Um, it was a gray car. It actually, and funny story with this one is, we were still using someone else to print at that time. And, I was doing picker stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Texas pitting for not Kyle Busch, Eric Jones. And Ron Devine calls me, says, David's wrecked the car in qualifying. We need a backup rep. Well, we didn't have one. We're a low budget team. We didn't bring backup reps. So I called the guys that were printing for us. They were printing the wrap while I was working the race in Texas. I get home from Texas that night at an airport in Statesville, North Carolina, which is actually near the GMS shop. They dropped off the wrap at the airport. I picked it up, drove to my house, took a shower, hopped on a plane in Concord, North Carolina, and flew up to Michigan to put the wrap on the next morning. On zero sleep, it was like 100 degrees out. The vinyl was super messy, and I was like, yeah, that was the first time I got to enjoy seeing my design on the track, and I had to go through all that to do it. But man, it was a small media company.
Is it Weaver Media?
Weaver Media. Yep, that's it. So I'm mad I couldn't remember that.
Yeah, at first I was going to try to Google David Reagan weird scheme, but I was like, I don't know what that would be. But I was able to find it with the Michigan, so.
Yeah, that was and I didn't really like that one. I designed several, but for some reason the owner of Weaver Media really liked that one, and that's what we went with. The original design was a matte base with gloss graphics, but he wrecked that one. So the second one he got was all gloss because he didn't have a choice. There wasn't time to do all the extra, because then you got to wrap it with the base scheme, and then you have cut graphics to go on gloss, and that's a lot of extra work.
I really liked your post. I think it might have been last week or the week before, where you had posted some of the old BK throwbacks that were never used, and it got me thinking just to how many paint schemes out there were designed that probably were incredible, but the world will never see them because someone was like, nah, I like this one. For every one paint scheme that hits the track, how many there are that's, nope, they're just in a file somewhere or, whatever.
Yeah, I've got a few hard drives. I think my first season there, I probably have well over 100 that nobody ever saw, and probably nobody ever will. There's several that I won't share because I want to keep them in my library for myself in case I need a 911 or last minute deal.
Yeah.
So I don't want to share them. I guess I'm kind of selfish, but I worked really hard for them. I was paid by someone else to do them, so I don't feel it's fair to share them. And I have several times pulled stuff that was never used. The Allegiant scheme we used for Spencer on the Xfinity car, and also Johnny Sauter in the truck. That scheme, oh man, I had pitched it probably 6 or 7 different times as sponsors that never picked it up. But with the waves and the gradient speed lines and stuff, several that never got picked up. I think Sunfrog was the first time I had pitched that design. And it looked really cool with the green and the orange and the gray. But yeah, that was probably one that I remember the most being recycled. But yeah, there's so many. But I felt with the throwbacks I could share that because the throwbacks, they've been done.
Yeah.
These cars aren't going to exist anymore. Earth Waters, I don't think, is around anymore. Dr. Pepper's out of the sport. I don't see them coming back for anyone. So I was like, I'll share a few of them. There were still several. There was a Tim Richmond one that we had done for Dr. Pepper. They didn't like the gold. Yeah. Stuff like that. I think I've shared a few.
Speaking of the Earth Water schemes, like when I was looking through your portfolio, it was cool seeing how many paint schemes that I really loved that it came from you. and some of them being like pretty much all of the earth water schemes that hit the track. I loved, as well as the Schluter systems with TriStar. Did you have any favorite, or did you have a favorite or favorites um, that you designed?
Oh, um, the earth water we ran in Sonoma
Mm-hmm.
was really fun. I don't know why. It was really basic. I know a lot of people compared it to the subway car for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, the Aflac car. I'm not sure where that came from, but I saw it a lot on Reddit. And I don't know. I try not to read any of the posts, um, but yeah, that one got compared to that. But it was really cool. It was really simple. It was a cheap design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there I was always thinking about that was how can I do this for a couple $100 compared to a couple thousand?
Mm-hmm.
That's what kept me employed. Um, yeah, that one was really cool. I really dug the colors that Earthwater had, the teal and the green, um, and the fact that the water was black
Mm-hmm.
helped too, because I tried to keep a dark scheme. Um, I got to tell you, there were so many people that sent me concepts of Earthwater
Mm-hmm.
with clear water, not knowing it was black,
Yeah.
and I hated bursting their bubble. Like, this wouldn't work, and they're like, "Why?" It's because the water's actually black, and if you put that on the side of the car, it looked kind of like oil. It looked
Yeah.
like a Castrol car or something like that, and I always thought that was funny. But um, yeah, that one was a lot of fun. They were really easy to work with. At the time, they had a guy running a lot of their marketing and stuff that pretty much just told me to go for whatever I felt was best. He
Mm-hmm.
he gave me the keys and let me drive, and I think those were liked pretty well too,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from a lot of people. I've seen a lot of recreations, Forza and iRacing and stuff like that. It's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah. I think when a lot of people, if they look through your designs, probably one of the top ones that come up was the Dr. Pepper Allison throwback that you did.
hmm that was fun. Um, I guess I've only gotten to do a couple of throwbacks um, over the years, and that one was, man, it was months to get it done, and a lot of conference calls with Dr. Pepper and the people running marketing on our side, Leanne Egolf and Doug Fritz and stuff like that. They were more in charge of the marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and man, just hours on the phone trying to get it right with them. Um, but it finally happened, and it was really cool. And I got to go to the unveil and meet Bobby, and Corey was a great sport about it.
Mm-hmm.
He did all he needed to do with it, and it was a lot of fun.
So now, when you're dealing with a larger company like a Dr. Pepper, is it more of just trying to explain to them if they may not know the history of the sport that hey, you might not enjoy how simple this is or whatever, but fans will love it? Or is it more of just them saying, hey, we actually have our own, we want to throw back our company instead of a race car driver? Or
It's more the history of the sport. Um, they they weren't as involved at the time like you'd see a Pepsi or Coca
mm-hmm.
Cola who've been in the sport forever, and they really understand the historic value of these throwbacks and what the fans do for it and how much social engagement it creates
Mm-hmm.
when it's done correctly. Um, and we even went to them with numbers. The year before, they had run that Orange Crush, an old school Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
They were liked, but when you compare it to some of the other cars that were done 100% accurate,
Yeah.
the numbers were nowhere close. So you start showing them that, and if it's an official throwback, you get printed in the programs that they sell at the track,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot more fanfare involved if you do it the right way. And it was a lot of explaining that and trying to get them on our side to go for it. And then with it, with that one in particular, we had to talk with the Allison family and make sure they were okay with it. And,
Mm-hmm.
because we were putting their name on it, basically.
Yeah.
Which they were great. Meeting Bobby was so cool. He was telling stories, and around here you can run into him in a little diner anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool to sit down with him and some of these other guys that have been in the sport a while, Larry McReynolds, and just listening to them chat was worth it.
Mm-hmm. So when I was researching for this, I was looking at your resume, and you've got Red Horse Racing on there, MWR, KBM, BK Racing, GMS, and when I look at those teams, all of them had these highs, all of them had their lows. How do you stay focused and enjoy the success? When you're winning or competing for championships, but also not let the lows, steal your passion because. I followed BK Racing closely. MWR was my absolute favorite team. Loved Red Horse, and I feel for all of those people when you can kind of see that when they're starting to shut down, a lot of people are starting to kind of like, okay, well, I'm moving on or whatever. How do you keep from letting that steal your passion or going, well, I don't know what to do now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I left Red Horse well before they closed the doors. That was the only team I've physically left.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't shut down. And that was really tough because the owner there, Tom DeLoach, and the management, working with Timothy Peters,
Mm-hmm.
they were amazing. And the team was great. It was a great team. A lot of the guys work at GMS now. A lot of them moved over when Red Horse shut down. So I get to see a lot of my old friends that I worked with in the shop. But it's weird for them because I used to be the guy that cleaned the trucks when they came back from the track and put stickers on, and now I'm up in an office and wearing khakis and drawing the paint schemes. So there's a little gap in there. But Red Horse was great. There was ups and downs there. I mean, when I started there, I was with David Starr, and I was just a pick crew guy. And I did TJ Bell. And then when Timothy came on, they wanted him. He was helping with the graphics, with putting stickers on and stuff, because he didn't have a lot of money to bring, and he was just trying to be a team player. Well, they wanted him to focus on driving, and so that opened up a spot for me to come in. He taught me how to put stickers on the trucks, and he was a tough teacher. He was very meticulous, but I think it, made me better at my job. I didn't want to let him down, especially because I had to go over the wall for him on the weekend. It was a big family, and he taught me how to do that. And the time came where a Cup team, Michael Waltrip, hit me up and said, "We want you to come pit full time as part of our Cup program." Well, that was hard to turn down because it's a big pay jump, and at the time I was looking to have my first daughter with my wife, and it kind of just had to happen to afford having a kid. Kids are expensive. That's why I can't do free paint schemes. But yeah, I did Walter for 3 years, and they were very particular. They wanted the pit crew guys to focus on pit crew. It was working out and doing pit stops day in, day out. That's when I started getting into the graphic side of it. I would hang out with a lot of the marketing people there and pick their brains about the marketing side of it. Well, then after work, because we were done by lunch every day, because we traveled all weekend. So we're done by lunch. I went to local print shops and learned how the stickers were made, how these guys made the wraps, and how the design software. And I'd work for free just learning how this stuff worked, and then help with installs because I had a history of that. But that was in between Waltrip and BK was one of my bigger lows because I had just gotten into the Cup Series.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it 3 years, which wasn't super long. I wouldn't have considered myself a veteran of the sport when there's guys in there that have been doing Cup for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan on leaving. I didn't want to leave Waltrip. So when it was shutting down, a lot of these veterans on the team, they knew guys. They knew where to go and how this process worked to get a gig. And I felt like I was a little bit behind the ball, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was out of work for a couple months, just trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the GM, Ryan Dubois, called me from BK, and he knew I liked the graphics side of things, and he was like, how would you like to come over here and run a graphics department for us? It's like, you know what, I think that'd be good, as long as I get to pit the car too. And it was a lot of work handling the first season. There's only 2 cars, so it wasn't too bad. It was 2 cars or 3 cars. It's 2 cars. Yeah.
I feel like with that team, it was so hard it was almost like weekly, it seemed like, as a fan, trying to figure out how many cars are going to the track.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, it was nuts sometimes. You talk about highs and lows. At that point, my first season there, I was pitting for William Byron in the Truck Series. So I was literally going from a winning truck on Saturday to, I think we were pitting C that year on Saturdays, which was an okay car. Those guys really work hard on very little, but it was a lot of fun, great group. And then you come to Sunday, and it was like, let's just get this over with.
Yeah.
Let's take our 30th to 35th place finish and go home. Let's hope we don't tear anything up and spend a bunch of money and get ready for next week. So it was a decelerated week out.
With a team like that, and I'm not fishing for like a sound bite, which in reality I don't think anyone's tuning into this to get some juicy bit about BK Racing, but I guess just as a fan, and probably a lot of people that follow my page or whatever, they would be wondering is, with a place like, you look at a BK Racing versus a front row, or not front row, Furniture Row Racing, and you have like an owner there that is building this with a BK Racing. Was there that opportunity for them to potentially one day become that competitive team, or was it more of just if you start with the owner that he didn't really understand what you need for the sport, or if that makes any sense?
Well, with not knowing 100% what was always happening behind closed doors, my personal belief was that there was good things in the works, especially after that year with DiBenedetto and Reagan. I feel like having those 2 guys behind the wheel were helping move the program, and they had acquired some great mechanics from Waltrip.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that were going right, and I think that's what was so disheartening, that it fell so fast after that would have been the 2016 season. Yeah. And I tell you what, I've won, I believe, 27 truck races as a pit crew member, 3 championships. The most emotional I've been at a racetrack was when we finished 6th at Bristol.
Yeah. With
DiBenedetto. Because I think that was the hardest I've ever worked. And to finish 6th at that scale was unbelievable. And I felt like we had a lot of momentum going into the next season, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I know that a few weeks before the start of the season, we lost those two good drivers, and we had to start over with not a lot of time. And I still think that could have been done maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was tough. I don't know what went into it or anything like that, but I felt like there was a window there, and then it disappeared.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that growing up, people would ask, oh, who's your favorite driver? And I would tell them, honestly, at any given week, there's maybe two or three people that I don't want to see win. But for me, even if, the guy that I don't pull for wins, I'm still sitting there following, right now, Corey LaJoy and seeing, man, is he going to get that, top 20? Are you looking at like a John Hunter Nemechek? And I tell people that there's stories all across there. And I feel for the people that are just a Keselowski fan. So if he has a bad day, that race sucks for them. Instead of thinking that guy might have done bad, but you look across the board, and that was one of those days to where I started becoming a pretty big Benedetto fan since I was already a fan of BK Racing. And I remember that day just like wondering if people understood how big this was, for that driver, for that team, that for a lot of people, they're sitting there thinking, well, it's a sixth place finish. That's no big deal because, you expect, if he wins, then it's a big deal. But I'm sitting there thinking, even if that would have just been a 10th place finish, it's huge for the team or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was massive. There's hugs all around. We all really enjoyed that. And even now, watching Matt, when he does well, I get kind of emotional because I know the guy. He's just a good, genuine person. A lot of them are. Everyone has their opinions on all the different drivers, but
yeah,
I don't know that there's one that I dislike, honestly.
Yeah, that's one thing I enjoy about the sport is that even the people that I don't that I don't like, I really appreciate what they do for their charities, and I know that if I ever met them, they'd be the nicest people in the world. But it's just me thinking, well, I can't pull for them because they did this thing one time or whatever, which I feel like says a lot about the sport.
Yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate you taking time to drop in for the interview. Like I said, it meant a lot when you took the time to talk to me, and when I was looking at your resume, I'm like, man, this guy has literally worked. I think if you would just had a little bit of history of DI or like Fitz Motorsports, you would have fit into every single one of my favorite teams of all time. So,
oh, that's cool.
You came very close to just. I was very excited about this interview, and just also just getting the perspective of not from a driver, but from a crew member and a graphic designer, what all goes into that.
I appreciate it. It's been a interesting journey, to say the least, to think of the last 14 years. Like I said, from cleaning the trucks when they come back from the track to now, getting to design and talk with these big companies about marketing and stuff like that. It's been fun.
So usually I leave this spot open for the drivers to plug their socials or their sponsors. So I'll leave the floor open for you to plug any of your socials or anything you'd like to plug.
Well, all I really have is my DC2 designs, and that's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't do a whole lot on the Twitter, Facebook, but I'm starting to get more into it. But I put a lot of my personal and professional stuff on there, so feel free to follow.
All right, well, thank you very much, and stay safe during all of this.
Thank you. You do the same.